Compare the ideologies and policies of Stalin and Mao in shaping their respective countries. So, Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong. Stalin based in Moscow, Mao based in Beijing. Mao comes to power in 1949 after winning the Chinese Civil War and defeating Chiang Kai shek in the Kuomintang. And Stalin was in power. He became, well, since before the Second World War. So if you take a look at the maps, then you will see that these two countries share a significantly long, contiguous border, despite the capitals being so far away from each other. So the Russian capital is obviously Moscow over here, and the Chinese capital is Beijing all the way in the east. And if you look at the distance between the two capitals, well, it's mind-boggling. It's 5.7 something thousand kilometers, right? But as you can see, the two countries have a significant border. There's a tiny little border here as well between obviously Kazakhstan and Mongolia. But in the past, Kazakhstan was part of the USSR, so the border was much longer at that time. So that's just the map. Okay, so yeah, now, so you have these two rulers, Stalin and Mao. Both were Marxist Leninists, clearly. Both were authoritarian. So the ideologies were pretty compatible. Policies were also authoritarian policies, but you will find differences as well. You will find divergences in their ideologies too, and their policies as well. So what was Stalin's ideology? Socialism, sure, but it was centralized industrial socialism. Industrial socialism. And Mao, he was also a socialist, but he was all about revolution, the revolution of the proletariat, the revolution of the peasants. So Mao was all about peasant-based socialism. Stalin was all about industrial socialism. Significant difference, despite both being socialists. What was Stalin's economic focus? Stalin's economic focus was heavy industry and collectivized agriculture, forcible collectivization. You have no choice in what happens. We're gonna forcibly collectivize all the agriculture in the country, and that's what he did. Stalin. That's what he implemented. So Stalin focused on heavy industry, massive, large-scale industrialization and collectivization of agriculture, and Mao was all about rural communes. So Mao was all about agriculture. It was all about creating communes in villages, rural communes. The Great Leap Forward, which essentially destroyed the country in a significant way. But yeah. So once again, Stalin was all about industry, was all about large-scale collectivized agriculture, and Mao was all about peasants once again, and rural communes, not massively collectivized agriculture, and definitely not industrialization. Then what about the politics? What about the political ideology? What was the means of political control for Stalin and Mao? So Stalin was, well, an out and out bureaucratic minded person. So Stalin controlled his nation through a totalitarian bureaucracy. He held frequent purges in the country, and he had this massive network of espionage all over the country. Secret police, NKVD, KGB, whatever you want to call it, right? So the bureaucracy controlled the whole country, totalitarian bureaucracy, and you had secret service all over the place. And yeah, purges happened all the time in Stalin's USSR. When it comes to Mao, how did he control his country? Through mass mobilization of the peasants, through ideological campaigns that sought to motivate the peasants. And yeah, you would obviously have aeroplaning of intellectuals and all that. You can look it up what it means. Black and white pictures, thankfully, right? And that was called the Cultural Revolution. So the total transformation of the culture of the country. What was the role of the peasants in the two countries? Under Stalin, the peasants were forcibly subordinated to the industrial goals of the country. So peasants were sometimes moved out of agriculture and put to work in factories, right? And in Maoist China, it was the other way around. People who worked in factories were pushed into farms and turned into peasants. And the peasants were essentially Mao's centralized revolutionary force. So totally different outlook in the two countries. Um, and obviously, both Mao and Stalin were against religion. So Stalin definitely suppressed religion in his country. Anyone who was religious would be purged. And Mao was not only about opposing religion and purging people who were religious. Mao was also an anti-intellectual. So there was this massive anti-intellectualism campaign in China. If you were a physics professor and you taught quantum mechanics, you would be purged. You would be sentenced to 20 years hard labor in the farms. And you will forget all quantum mechanics by the time you're done. Right? Mass re-education. Anyone who had the wrong notions, you believed in quantum mechanics, you believed in relativity, you would be re-educated. Yeah, through hard labor, that sort of thing. So as you can see, the ideologies are similar but very different. The policies are also kind of similar but tremendously different as well. And Mao, to conclude, Mao regarded Stalin. Mao had the greatest amount of respect and admiration for Stalin. And it's only after Stalin's death that the Sino-Soviet split happens, because once Khrushchev comes in, Mao did not have that same kind of respect for Khrushchev. So yeah, that's the deal. Both were similar, but both were also significantly different.